You're listening to Holy Sync Radio Podcast. Today's episode, Stand by Your Name.
Have you ever noticed how everybody seems to have an opinion about who you should be? One person says you're too quiet, another says you're too loud, someone else says you're too emotional or you're too serious. Before long, it feels like everybody has a version of you they're trying to create. I remember there was a season in my life when I was trying so hard to make everybody happy that somewhere along the way I couldn't even hear my own heart anymore. And if I'm honest, I definitely couldn't hear God's voice over all the noise. I spent years looking for my identity in all the wrong places. I looked for it in work, money, success, making people laugh, and trying to be accepted by everyone around me. Every time I thought I had finally figured out who I was, something would happen. Someone would criticize me, I'd lose something important, or I'd fail at something, and suddenly that identity would disappear. Looking back now, I realize I wasn't really looking for God, I was looking for a name. Welcome back to Holy Sync Radio. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Nilsa.
We're so glad you're here with us today. If this is your first time listening, welcome. Our heart is simple. We want to help teenagers, parents, and families grow closer to Jesus through honest conversations and real stories. This week, we've been talking about our newest song, Stand by Your Name. The more I listened to it, the more I realized it wasn't just a song about standing up for Jesus. It's really a song about remembering who you belong to when the world keeps trying to tell you who you should become.
I think that's something every one of us struggles with. It doesn't matter if you're 15 years old or 50 years old, there will always be voices trying to define you. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's social media, sometimes it's your past, and sometimes it's that little voice in your own head that keeps whispering, "You're not enough."
I know exactly what that feels like because I lived that way for a long time. When I was growing up, I was dyslexic. Reading wasn't easy for me, and school wasn't easy either. When you're a kid and you feel different, you figure out pretty quickly how to hide it. My way of hiding was humor. I became the class clown. I thought if I could make everyone laugh, maybe they wouldn't notice my weaknesses. Maybe they wouldn't notice how insecure I really was. Looking back, I wasn't trying to become funny. I was trying to become accepted. And that pattern followed me into adulthood. The mask changed, but the reason behind it didn't. Instead of trying to make people laugh, I started trying to impress them. I thought maybe if I made enough money, people would respect me. Maybe if I owned businesses, people would admire me. Maybe if I worked harder than everyone else, I'd finally feel valuable. The truth is, none of those things ever satisfied me. I wasn't chasing success. I was chasing acceptance. And acceptance is a moving target because every room expects something different from you. At work, I wanted to be successful. At church, I wanted to be the good Christian. Around friends, I became the funny guy again. Around family, I tried to be the one who fixed everybody's problems. Then I'd get home, sit quietly by myself, and realize I didn't even know who Thomas really was anymore. I had spent so much time becoming who everyone else wanted me to be that I forgot who God created me to be. You know, when you've lived through abuse as a child, something gets planted deep inside your heart. You begin believing that love has to be earned. You think you have to perform, make people happy, and become somebody important before you'll finally be enough. That's an exhausting way to live. Even today, there are moments when I ask God, why do you love me so much? Why do you continue to bless me when I still make mistakes? Why do you still use me? And every time his answer points me back to his grace. His love has never been based on my performance. It's based on his character. I never found my identity in money. I never found it in work. I never found it in pleasing people because none of those things actually knew who I was. The only one who knew everything about me, the good, the bad, the failures, the fears, and the shame, was Jesus. And knowing all of that, he still chose me. That's whose name I want to stand by.
Can I ask you something? I've heard pieces of your story over the years, but listening to you today, I wonder if you were really looking for people's approval or if you were hoping their approval would heal something inside of you.
Wow, that's a really good question. I don't think I wanted applause. I think I wanted peace. I thought if enough people accepted me, maybe I'd finally accept myself. But that day never came because people can only tell you who they think you are. Only God can tell you who He created you to be. And when I finally started believing His voice more than everyone else's, that's when my life really began to change.
I think that's something a lot of people miss. We spend so much of our lives trying to earn something God has already given us. We chase acceptance because we think if enough people approve of us, we'll finally feel secure. But security doesn't come from people, it comes from knowing who you belong to. When I was in the Air Force, there were a lot of moments where I had to make decisions that weren't popular. As a leader, I couldn't spend my time wondering if everyone was going to like me. If I did that, I'd never make the right decision. Leadership taught me something that's helped me in my walk with Christ. If you're constantly looking over your shoulder for everyone's approval, you'll never have the courage to move where God is leading you. The world has its own definition of confidence. It tells us confidence means believing you're amazing, believing you can do anything on your own. But I don't think that's what the Bible teaches at all. I think real confidence comes from believing Jesus is enough. Because if my confidence is built on me, eventually I'm going to disappoint myself. But if it's built on Him, I can stand even on the days when I feel weak, because He never changes. What gives me peace isn't believing I'm perfect. It's believing His grace is bigger than my imperfections. It's knowing that even when I fail, I'm still His daughter. That's where confidence begins.
I love that. I think every teenager listening needs to hear what you just said. Confidence isn't believing you're amazing. Confidence is believing Jesus is enough. That's such a different way of looking at it because the world keeps telling us to look inside ourselves for strength. The Bible keeps pointing us back to Christ. If you're a teenager listening today, maybe nobody is saying these things out loud, but I know they're running through your mind. What if they stop inviting me? What if they laugh at me? What if I don't fit in? What if I say no to the party? What if I don't vape? What if I don't drink? What if I actually tell people I believe in Jesus? Those are real questions, and they're not just teenage questions. Adults ask the same things in different ways. The enemy has always used the same lie. He whispers, the next thing will finally make you enough. The next relationship, the next phone, the next promotion, the next dollar, the next achievement, the next group of friends, whatever it is, we believe that if we can just reach that next thing, we'll finally be satisfied. But the finish line keeps moving because the world can never give you what only Jesus can.
That's because identity isn't something you achieve, it's something you receive. God doesn't wait until you've cleaned up your life before He calls you His child. He meets you where you are and begins changing you from the inside out. That's the gospel. That's grace.
That reminds me of one of my favorite verses. Before we read it, let's understand why it mattered. When Solomon wrote Proverbs, cities were surrounded by walls, and they built strong towers for protection. Whenever danger came, people didn't run away from the tower. They ran toward it because they knew they would be safe there. Listen to what Proverbs 18:10 says. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. Think about that. The verse doesn't say your popularity is your strong tower. It doesn't say your talent, your grades, your athletic ability, your money, or your reputation will keep you safe. It says the name of the Lord. That's where our security is. That's where our identity is. That's where our peace is found.
I love that it says we run to Him. It doesn't say we have to fix ourselves first. It doesn't say we have to pretend everything is okay. We run to Him when we're afraid. We run to Him when we're confused. We run to Him when we've failed. We run to Him when we're carrying shame. That's what a loving father wants his children to do.
You know what this conversation made me think about? Sports jerseys. People spend a lot of money to wear somebody else's name on their back. They'll proudly wear Jordan, LeBron, Mahomes, Curry, or their favorite athlete because they admire them. There's nothing wrong with enjoying sports. I like sports too. But it made me stop and ask myself a question. Why are we so excited to wear another person's name, but sometimes we're hesitant to let people know we belong to Jesus? Maybe the greatest jersey you'll ever wear isn't one with a famous athlete's name across the back. Maybe it's the life you live every day that quietly tells the world, I belong to Christ. I think that's really what this song is about. It's not just standing up for Jesus once in a while. It's choosing every day to stand by his name because his name is the only one that's never going to fail you. You know, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about following Jesus is that once you decide to follow him, life suddenly gets easy. That's never been my experience. If anything, there have been moments when standing with Jesus meant standing alone. There were times when I had to walk away from people, habits, and situations that I knew weren't leading me closer to God. It wasn't because I thought I was better than anyone else. It was because I finally realized I couldn't keep chasing the world's approval and expect to hear God's voice clearly. At some point, you have to decide whose opinion matters most. As I've gotten older, people have said, you just stop caring what everyone thinks. I don't know if that's exactly true. I think what really happens is you finally decide whose opinion carries the most weight. For me, that's been one of the biggest changes in my life. I still want to love people. I still want to encourage people, but I don't need everyone's approval to have peace anymore because my identity isn't built on their opinions. It's built on Jesus. When I look back over my life, I see how many different names I tried to wear. I tried wearing the name of success. I tried wearing the name of businessman. I tried wearing the name of provider. I wore the name of the funny guy because I thought if people laughed, maybe they wouldn't see the hurt I was carrying. I spent so much of my life trying to become someone people would accept that I almost forgot I had already been accepted by Christ. That's the freedom I want every teenager listening today to experience. You don't have to spend the next 20 years trying to figure out who you are like I did. You can start today by believing what God already says about you. You're loved, you're chosen, you're forgiven, you're valuable, not because of what you've accomplished, but because of whose you are.
And that's such an important difference. The world tells you to build your identity on what you do. God builds your identity on who he says you are. Those are two completely different foundations. One changes every time you succeed or fail. The other never changes because God never changes. I hope every young person listening hears this. You don't have to become someone else to deserve God's love. You don't have to earn his attention. Before you ever made the team, got the job, earned the grade, or figured life out, Jesus already loved you enough to give his life for you. That's where your identity begins. Everything else grows from there.
So here's our challenge for this week. The next time you find yourself worrying about what someone else thinks, stop for just a moment and ask yourself one simple question. Whose opinion matters most right now? Is it my friends? Is it social media? Is it the crowd? Or is it Jesus? Maybe your stand this week is saying no to something you know isn't right. Maybe it's standing up for someone who's being picked on. Maybe it's inviting a friend to church. Maybe it's apologizing to someone you've hurt. Maybe it's opening your Bible for the first time in weeks. Whatever it is, don't underestimate one small step of obedience. God has always done incredible things through people who were simply willing to trust him. And before we close, I want to leave you with one final thought. We spend so much of our lives wearing other people's names. We wear labels the world gives us. We wear labels from our past. We wear labels from our mistakes. But Jesus offers us something completely different. He calls us sons and daughters. He calls us forgiven. He calls us redeemed. He calls us his own. That's the name worth standing by. If you're listening today and you've been carrying labels that don't belong to you, I want you to do something with me. Close your eyes for just a moment if you're somewhere you can do that safely. Picture Jesus standing in front of you with his hands stretched out toward you. Now imagine taking every label you've been carrying: failure, shame, rejection, fear, not good enough, unwanted, and place every one of them into his hands. He already carried those labels to the cross. You were never meant to carry them yourself. Now, with your hands empty, receive what he wants to give you instead. Receive his grace, receive his mercy, receive his peace, receive your true identity as a child of God. That's where freedom begins. That's where healing begins. That's where real confidence begins. Not because you've become perfect, but because you've finally started believing the one who created you. Before we go, we'd love to share our brand new song with you. It's called Stand By Your Name. As you listen, don't just hear the lyrics. Let them become your prayer this week. Ask God to help you stop chasing everyone else's approval and start living confidently in the identity He's already given you.
Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. If today's conversation encouraged you, would you share it with someone who needs to hear it? You can find Holy Sync Radio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, right here on Holy Sync Radio. Until next time, keep your heart soft, stay in sync, and remember,
God loves you.